10 fragrances for men for the summertime. When it's warm outside, you want fragrances that are appropriate for the warm weather. Stuff that is evocative of the warm weather. Citrus fruits, aquatic accords, anything that can remind you of summer, maybe you kind of want to put that on your body. Now, this is my first of several top 10 summer lists, and I wanted to focus strictly on designer fragrances. And those, of course, are designer brands that make fragrances. You would find them at most department stores out there. And they're also probably those colognes that most people are most familiar with. At number 10 on this list is Cryptomint by Mughal. Cryptomint is a flanker of Amen, which is a prolific men's fragrance, but not one I would recommend you wear in the summer because it's way too heavy. Cryptomint has the patchouli base of the original, but it's really good in the warm weather. The added mint in Cryptomint really gives it that nice, unique freshness. And the way that it incorporates itself with the other green note of patchouli and the bit of chocolatiness to it makes it feel like you are a peppermint patty, which means you will definitely be delicious to anyone you're trying to seduce. Like a lot of the fragrances on this list, it is a compliment getter. So if you want some positive attention, you will get that with Cryptomint. But you'll get it in a way that will distinguish you from an average Joe who might wear Axe body spray. Not that there's anything wrong with Axe because they've been releasing some cool stuff recently, kind of. Now, although Cryptomint is an Angel Men flanker, it doesn't have Angel Men performance per se. You will definitely get a full day's use out of it, but the dry down does become a bit muddled. The mint's lasting appeal varies from person to person, so it's something that you should definitely try out before you get. My number 9 fragrance on this summer designer list is L'Eau Majeure d'Issey. If you haven't heard of this fragrance, you're probably not alone. Not a lot of people talk about it, and Fragrantica hates it. So if you're going to go to fragrantica.com and search up its ratings and its reviews, or on YouTube, you won't be impressed. It has awful reviews. But personally, I really like this aromatic aquatic fragrance. Don't expect the original L'Eau d'Issey with this one. No prolific yuzu, which is an amazing citrus note that L'Eau d'Issey was famous for. This one does one of the best jobs at an aquatic accord in my collection of designer fragrances. I don't think it smells fake or cheap, and it's different than some of the other aquatic fragrances in my collection. Different enough that I was compelled to buy it. Another huge bonus is its performance. It really performs really well. Even though the online trolls will bash the fragrance, you'll still notice they'll unanimously talk about its long-lasting performance. It really does a very good job. And really, those Fragrantica trolls, man, if they don't like a fragrance, instead of giving it a 3 or a 4, they'll just give it a 0. It's kind of a 0 or 5 type of thing. So I wouldn't take it too seriously. Take it with a grain of salt. Number 8, we have Chanel Allure Homme Cologne Sport, or Sport Cologne, Sport Cologne, Sport Cologne, Sport, whatever version you have. It is the transparent bottle, the transparent flanker to Allure Homme Sport. And transparent is actually a great way to describe that fragrance because it is a stripped down version of the original. There's not a whole lot of the creamy Tonka dry down that you get with Allure Homme Sport, and even more so in Eau Extreme. Cologne Sport is really about showcasing the citrus quality of Allure Homme Sport. And when it dries down a bit, it does get a little bit spicy too. So it's not just a straightforward citrus fragrance. I personally like that. I don't like my fragrances to be extremely simplistic and linear. Allure Homme Sport Cologne evolves a little bit more than Dior Homme Cologne. And those two fragrances often get compared to one another because they do have a lot of similarities. Dior Homme Cologne is just icy lemon. That's the way I put it. Not minty lemon, but just a cool, refreshing lemon ice. That's kind of how it feels. I tend to lean towards Allure Homme Sport Cologne just because it has more to it. Next designer fragrance on this list is Moogly Cologne. Moogly Cologne is a pretty important fragrance in my collection. And I say that because it is incredibly versatile. And I'm talking for men, for women, it really doesn't matter. It's a fragrance that smells so clean, soapy, fresh out the shower. It also works very well as a summer fragrance because you want to smell clean, especially in the summer when you're sweating. So if you look sweaty, but you smell like soap, people won't really question you as much. It's not quite strong enough where it'll mask your body odor issues. You gotta deal with that yourself. but it's a very pleasant, soapy fragrance. And there are other cheaper colognes that try and do the same thing with, you know, Adidas stuff and just your basic sport cologne. They smell kind of chemically and they like hurt the back of my throat when I sniff them, but Moogly Cologne doesn't really do that. Even though it smells like soap, which is kind of a synthetic thing, it doesn't have that synthetic quality where you feel like you're wearing something cheap and gross and ugh. Could the performance be better on me? Sure, of course it could. But what I like about its weaker performance on myself, and that could be different for you guys, is the fact that I can wear this absolutely anywhere. Even to the gym, which is a bit of a faux pas if you overspray in the gym. I can also wear it straight after the shower and just feel really clean, but by lunchtime, I can apply a different fragrance and they won't clash. In fact, even if you layer this with a lot of fragrances, it still won't clash because you're basically putting a cologne on top of soap. It's not the most unique smelling fragrance, but it is unusually versatile as a fragrance, and that in and of itself is pretty unique. Just missing the top 5, we have Grey Vetiver Eau de Toilette. Grey Vetiver by Tom Ford is one of your stereotypical office fragrances, and vetiver as a note tends to work a little bit better in the springtime rather than the summer. So why am I recommending it? It's simple, because I personally own and gravitate towards the EDT rather than the EDP. Keep in mind, the bottles look very, very similar. The scent is fairly similar, but the Eau de Toilette has a lot more citrus, especially in the opening. And citrus and summer, it's a match made in heaven. This fragrance gives you a very professional quality, but it still has youth to it. It has the zest of life with the lemon zest. It doesn't actually have lemon zest as a note, it's lemon, so it's not too bitter. But the way that it incorporates itself with the vetiver does give it a masculine quality. Keep in mind, this isn't a private blend, it's in that designery bottle. Call it designery because that's how I think of it. But it's marketed as unisex, so women can wear it too. I tend to feel that a lot of vetiver fragrances do lean masculine. And Grey Vetiver, it's masculine without being in your face. And because of the added citrus, it's a great choice for summer. Number 5, we have an old favorite, Aqua Atlantique by Bulgari. The Bulgari Aqua line is great. And if you watch fragrance videos on YouTube, you probably have been familiar with Aqua Amara. It's been popularized like crazy. And to a lesser extent, Aqua Atlantique, because, I mean, I talk about it a lot. While there are a lot of aquatic fragrances out there, there's not a whole lot that incorporate a saltiness, the sea salt. Some do it more heavy-handed than others, but personally, for me, I think that Aqua Atlantique is the most balanced and well-rounded of the Bulgari Aqua fragrances. Now, some are quick to say, okay, it's Bulgari's take on Sauvage, and I may have mentioned that in a past video. And that's because of the use of ambergris. Sauvage uses ambroxan. They're very straightforward that it is a synthetic version of ambergris. Atlantique claims it's ambergris, but we don't know. All I know is it pairs perfectly with the sea saltiness of the Aqua line in general. It works wonderfully because when your skin heats up, the fragrance will naturally sweeten, and the saltiness keeps that balance. And of course, Aqua Atlantique has incredible performance. It lasts all day and then some. I smell it after I shower. It's that damn good. Sliding into the top 4 is Terra de Mares Eau Très Fraîche. Now, not unlike Grey Vetiver EDT, this is another fragrance that is a little more sophisticated than the rest. It is not a sweet fragrance by any means. It is the fresh flanker of the original Terra de Mares, which happens to be one of the best designer fragrances I've ever smelled. Eau Très Fraîche takes Terra de Mares in another direction. It really amps up the bright citrus quality, and it's this really, really zesty, juicy, beautiful tangerine quality. I love wearing Terra de Mares Eau Très Fraîche in the summer. It just puts a smile on my face every time I put it on because it is composed in such a unique manner. So when I want something that's a little bit more expressive, it's one of my go-tos. It is not for everybody. Some people will dismiss it and say, oh, it smells like cleaning products, and which is one of the most tackiest criticisms of citrus fragrances. Not everything smells like Lemon Pledge. Have you smelt Lemon Pledge recently? In third place, we have an old favorite, Popeye, aka Fresh Le Male Eau Fraîche. Now, I personally have the Popeye bottle, but it's any of the fresh flankers to Le Male. Essentially every year they've been putting out a new version of it, which is a good thing in my books. The original Le Male is one of the best-selling fragrances. It's one of the most recognizable bottle designs as well. And the fresh version of Le Male is interesting because the composition itself doesn't change a whole lot. You still have vanilla, you still have mint, but the weight of each note is manipulated in a way that it really becomes a summer banger of a fragrance. Oddly enough, even though the notes are very similar, in the air, it does smell pretty different from the original Le Male. Sure, the base of it is pretty much identical, but never once has someone thought I was wearing the original Le Male while wearing Popeye, which is a big deal. Personally, I can't stand when I wear a flanker of a fragrance and then people just think I'm wearing the original. Looking at you, Invictus Aqua. At number 2, we have one of my personal favorites, Acqua di Gio Essenza. The original Acqua di Gio is a staple. It's been around for the longest time, and for those of you who don't already know, it is the best-selling men's fragrance of all time, or so they say. It has been watered down over time, or perhaps our perception of it has just changed. But what's nice is there are some flankers that deviate a little bit from the original. Profumo is definitely talked about a lot, Essenza not quite as much. And I would say that it's closer to the original than any of the other flankers. What's great about it is it's an eau de parfum concentration. It has better performance. While it's definitely a citrus aquatic at its core, it also has a woody spiciness that really does linger on as the fragrance dries down. Although at some point I've owned pretty much every Acqua di Gio flanker there is, I've settled on 2, Essenza for the day and Profumo for the night. And even though they're amazing in the summertime, you can really apply that all year round because they're that good. It's not the most creative choice because it is a popular one, but at least with Essenza, it's a bit different from the original, so you won't completely smell like every other guy out there. Now, before we get to number 1, I have one honorable mention that is unfortunately a discontinued fragrance, but I did feel compelled to share it with you guys. This is a fragrance that I really look forward to wearing this summer, and I just wanted to share it with you, whether you like it or not. J-ROYL Cologne, Maison Francis Kurkdjian. So for those of you who don't know, Francis Kurkdjian made the original J-ROYL Cologne with the silver collar and the beige color. And it really is one of my favorite light iris fragrances. It's Dior Homme made extremely wearable in the heat. In fact, you can overspray this like crazy on your clothes, on your neck, anywhere, and you'll smell good. You'll just smell really good. It smells unique. It's really easy to apply, and because it has this taller design, this taller bottle, it houses more fragrance because you'll need to use it a little bit more. If you want something different that's still a dumb reach, try and find this on the secondhand market, in the Facebook groups, on eBay, wherever you can. My number 1 summer designer fragrance is awesome. It really does a fantastic job at combining probably the 2 most important things when it comes to getting compliments. It has a lovely freshness to it, but it's still a bit sweet. You have that energetic quality, and then you have that soft, sweet likability as well. I've talked about it in the past. It's never really been on the top of any of my lists, but this summer is the summer where I can't wait to reach for it as much as possible. Although it's a bit harder to find nowadays, you can get decent alternatives in the Sport Flanker and the brand new Cool Flanker. If you don't already know what I'm talking about, my number 1 summer designer fragrance is L'Homme Idéal Cologne. This is a J-ROYL public service announcement. If you can find this fragrance, I would really recommend you pick it up before it's gone. Check online, check Facebook, whatever you can do, get this fragrance. It's one of my favorites of all time, and I can't wait to wear it this summer. If you want to know which fragrances got me the most compliments this year, check out this video here. It's actually a top 12, and it goes through all the fragrances that I wore in a year and which ones got me the most compliments. At the end of the day, that's just my opinion. Get your own.